Welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney for Erik Ten Hag's pre-match press conference reaction. Now, Larry, we've sat through some press conferences over the years of Sir Alex Ferguson, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ralph Rangnick. So excited, looking forward to this first one from Erik Ten Hag. He'll get sort of his insight into his first dealings with the squad, his sort of approach and his feelings towards the first game against Liverpool. That was painful viewing. Now, this is going to be much better viewing for all the listeners in terms of listening to us too. And Erik Ten Hag, I thought, dealt with the press conference very well. The media, I could not get over that. Talk me through your reaction to that, because the way I understand Ronaldo is a big name, but the way they just kept banging that drum, I thought was embarrassing, because the media, those journalists there, they're professionals. I thought it was embarrassing on behalf of them.
It's a difficult one, Tom, and good evening to all the listeners in the pub. But it's difficult because it is such a big story, and we do want clarity on the situation. Can I say credit to Laurie Whitwell? I thought his question around Ronaldo was really well asked. Trying to clarify, was your conversation with Ronaldo before or after the news has broke? And Ten Hag kind of dodged the question, didn't he? He didn't really answer it. And to your point,
I think he said, from the way I saw him answering that, say, no, I haven't spoken since the news. I spoke to him when I first came in, but since this personal issue came up, I haven't spoken to him.
Well, that's the thing. It was kind of vague with it. And I just think he looked rattled to me. You say Ten Hag handled himself fairly well. I think he just realized what a big job this is. It's not just about the coaching. That's the smallest bit of your worry.
I think he handled it well in regards to, I can understand that feeling where potentially he's rattled. I think he was rattled by the sheer stupidity of 1,000 cameras asking the exact same thing. He's saying, hey, what are you asking me about? I think that's where the rattle came from. I don't think the rattledness sort of came from, I'm pissed off about these Ronaldo questions, or I don't want to lose this player, or I want to sell him, or I want this signing. I don't think that's where it sort of got under his skin. I think it got under his skin in regards to, what am I sitting through? This is an absolute nightmare. He had a bloody presentation. And look, if that's obviously what they want to do in Thailand before a press conference, have a big presentation with a ball with his face on it, that's what they want to do. But I think that's where, and look, that is part of it in terms of the Man United job, where he potentially does realise now how big Man United is. You just don't go and have a press conference. You go and sit down and it's a bloody circus.
Look, on Ronaldo, I do agree with you. And can I say credit to Flex, the United View? I really enjoyed his question. I thought actually focusing on the football.
I heard the question. I didn't hear the answer. I tuned out. So let me know what he did say about Martial and Rashford.
Like a pure politician. It was like watching Scott Morrison press conference. Basically said, I haven't been training with them that long. We'll wait and see what position they play. I can see that they're both dangerous players who can hurt the opposition. To the effect of that. It'll be interesting. Can I ask you, what do you predict? Obviously, it is Liverpool tomorrow. You imagine one of those players plays up front. Do you have any suspicions for who plays number 9 tomorrow?
Look, we did the pre-match preview with George yesterday, and it was just one of those ones where we can do starting 11 predictions, but I don't think we can read anything into it. Like, is he strongest 11, the second half 11? Is the strongest the first half? Is it going to be a mix of both? So I think Rashford will play one half, Martial will play the other half. And I don't think we can read anything into, okay, if this player plays the first half, he's the preferred option, and this, the backup option is the second half. I just think it'll literally be about 45 minutes in the gas tank for all the players. But just say good day to some guys in the chat. George, good to see you, mate. Ian over from Perth, Borche from the football capital, good to see you. Ian here wondering why there wasn't any questions about Cristiano Ronaldo. And Borche, my manager's never rattled. And just be here saying, just had a selfie with Ronaldo at the airport in Mallorca this morning, 9 a.m, looked totally relaxed. Post your photo in the comments for proof. That'd be good. But hopefully all is well with Cristiano. But on that, Larry, we've talked about, look, I'm sure Ronaldo will weave his way back into this discussion. I'm sure he will. The big line for me, Harry Maguire is captain. Now, I called this before the new manager was even announced. I said that no new manager can come in and change the captain. Now, it just wouldn't happen. Now, do I agree with that or disagree with that? That is another debate. But no manager was going to come in and change the captain. Too big a thing to deal with in terms of the Man United politics. I know I'm not going to sit here and say, look at me, I was right, because I don't think it was really up for debate. But here I am. I was right. Harry Maguire is the captain. Just your thoughts on how Erik Ten Hag has answered that, or was he pulling the wool over eyes? Is he going to change it potentially?
I think he left room there for change. He basically just said, once said Harry Maguire will be captain, and then it was the follow-up question was, why? What do you think he brings in terms of leadership? And he said, I haven't been here very long, but I did laugh. I have to admit, I did chuckle to he's experienced a lot of success, and I was like, well, and what success is that, Erik? Being relegated multiple times. And nonetheless, I think it'll be telling to see if Harry Maguire starts the season. At the end of the day, you can be club captain, but if you're not playing week in, week out, you're not really the captain, are you? So I think, look, it doesn't really matter. I think what will determine Harry Maguire's position in or not as captain will be, is he in the starting 11?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely a case of that. Ashby here, evening lads. Ten Hag seemed real calm with the questions that were sent his way. Showed he's not going to allow the press to tell him to do his job. Do you think there will be a difference when he goes back to Manchester and deals with these press conferences weekly with the same journalists, and he develops a rapport with them? And fingers crossed, he's in a positive mood after good results. And obviously, this is his first one as a Manchester United manager. Do you think it will be something he will sort of grasp and potentially sort of change his sort of tune at times, or do you think just your thoughts on how he will develop as a manager in front of the camera as Man United boss?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned by it, to be honest with you, Tom. I think it's really important, particularly as Manchester United manager, you need your allies in the media. We know how this story plays out. If you don't get results and you've got the wrong sections of the media not on your side, it can turn sour for you. So I just think he's not really, doesn't seem too bothered to make friends. And a part of you has to admire the confidence, but I just wonder when you hear of things like of dressing room unrest, or a player inevitably falls out with Ten Hag, is he going to have the right relationships to protect him in those situations? Because, and again, look, it's going to be a challenge for Richard Arnold as the new CEO as well to see how does he deal with those sorts of pressures. But, you know, if United go through a bad barrel in terms of results, I don't know if what he's doing in terms of the short-ended answers are really going to serve him.
One of his answers in regards to it was pretty much the only real transfer-related sort of question that was directed towards him. But he came out and said, look, we're just waiting for the right players. Now, what that screams to me is he's waiting for Frankie de Jong. He's putting all his eggs in that basket. Now, I've come along to the conclusion, in my opinion, over the last couple of days, class player Frankie de Jong walks through the Man United door. I'll be up there holding a Frankie de Jong shirt. But at the moment, Larry, I'm sick of it. I think it's the wrong decision now. I think he clearly doesn't want to come. Now, I know a Barcelona player will have to say, no, I want to stay at Barcelona. Paul Pogba Paul Pogba's probably an extreme case. He actually said he wants to leave. But a lot of players will say, no, I don't want to leave. I'm committed to the club, while sort of pushing for a move. I think Frankie de Jong is sort of nailing his heels to the floor to make sure he doesn't leave Barcelona. I think it's a mistake. I think we've seen this by forcing players to join the club for the wrong reasons, in Angel Di Maria, Alexis Sanchez, etc. I've seen this far too many times. Yes, he's a class player. Yes, he could potentially be very good under Erik Ten Hag. I just think the way this deal is going, it leaves me with a bad taste. I have a feeling this is a recipe for disaster if he ends up in United's shirt. Now, yes, I'll give him 100% support if he arrives, but I'll have a bad feeling now. But the way I heard Erik Ten Hag, and not to criticise him, but the way I heard him answer that question, it feels like he's really the one behind this transfer in terms of the persistence of it.
Yeah, it's a difficult hill to die on. Look, I think if Frankie de Jong was by clear and above the best player in his position in world football available, I'd support it. You know, it is. Sir Alex Ferguson famously said, I can't remember which player mentioned it. I think it might have been Rio Ferdinand. Nonetheless, he made the point that if a player was easy to get, Sir Alex would always take a step back and be like, okay, hold on. Why is a player who I'm thinking is highly sought after being quick to get over the line? Difficult players or good players should be difficult to get over the line. I think we're frustrated as a fan base given the outside mitigating circumstances. If we were coming second or first last season, I think the patience for getting this deal over the line would be a bit more. So I think we just, you know, if de Jong comes in, I think it will serve United well. In saying that, we've been on here, like there are enough players who can fulfill the job that de Jong does that you can get.
Is this still being held up? The reasons you say a deal should be held up if the player is sort of worth it, is this still being held up in that sort of vein though, like for the right reasons? Like this has been held up for sort of really unique circumstances in regard to Barcelona's finances. And I'm just thinking, what is the hold up in regards to the quality of the play? Like you put it back in Sir Alex Ferguson's days, if he's chasing Frankie de Jong, what's his ultimate conclusion? Does he persist with it and go for it? Or does he say, no, it's not worth it, let's move on to plan B?
You'll never know. But the difficult thing is, how can you tell someone he's not deserving to be owed the 13 million odd pounds, euros that's owed to him. And that's a difficult thing. But from United's perspective, they need to have plan B ready to go. My concern here is if if all our eggs are in the Frankie de Jong basket and we get to 1 week out from the transfer window closing, are United going to be capable of moving for Tielemans or Ruben Neves or whoever it might be? That's the concern.
If anyone with sort of employment law background in the live chat, or Larry, if you can help me out this as well, feel free. This issue with these deferred wages with Frankie de Jong, let's say he becomes a Manchester United player next week. He's still owed those wages. Like, shouldn't Barcelona, the La Liga, UEFA, the Spanish government still enforce Barcelona to pay out those wages, even if he's a Man United player?
Well, at the end of the day, employment law or not, if you move it into a civil law case, Frankie de Jong, who I'm sure can afford a lawyer, will be able to take Barcelona to court in a civil matter and demand, owed wages. So in any case, of course, he can pursue this matter moving on from Barcelona. But I mean, look, we don't know the intricacies around this. Obviously, it's easier to demand something when you're there, right? But like I said, it comes down to United's side of things where they have to have a deadline to say, all right, if we don't get this guy in by said time, we need to be able to move for plan B and plan C. Because the last thing United need are a midfield, with all due respect, the current players, we cannot go into this coming season with the current midfield options. We will not make top four.
Well, the latest, just I'll bring up a point. You mentioned plan B, and Ian here says plan B is Eriksen. And you just bring up a point. I'll get the tweet up when you give me your sort of opinions on the Christian Eriksen situation. But Samuel Luckhurst came out with a sort of Man United source, believes that Man United, the board, the club, the football department, is content with their midfield situation in that deep line. You got Fred, McTominay, Jimmy Garner, and I think Donny van der Beek was potentially listed there as well. Now, who that's coming from, why that's coming out, who knows? But let's take it on face value that the club, but this doesn't mean Erik ten Hag, but the club is happy with those four options in midfield. Now, is this same old, same old? Is it a lazy story to roll fans up? Just your thoughts on the club sort of potentially saying, well, if Frankie de Jong doesn't come in, we're good. We've got all these players.
Oh, I really hope that's not true.
Do you believe it to be true?
I don't think it's true. I mean, look, Ten Hag didn't give us much, but if he did give us one thing, he did say in that press conference, midfield is an area we need to invest in. Straight from the horse's mouth. So forget whatever report you've read. The manager is telling you he's not happy with his midfield options and sees a need to invest there. So, and look, Eriksen alone is not enough. I think we all know that. We need a deep-lying midfielder. I've moved on from this defensive, combative number 6. I don't think that has to be your one-stop solution in terms of a number 6. I think if you can just get a midfield that fits the prototype of what Ten Hag's looking for, someone who can get the ball from back to front, doesn't really matter whether that's a 6 or an 8.
Yeah, George here is saying if we don't get de Jong, we need Tielemans and Neves. No questions, our midfield need to improve, which we all completely agree with, George. I'll just direct it to Larry in sort of the motion that we all sitting here, we agree with it. Erik ten Hag is saying we agree with it. What do the club do? No, not saying the club. No, let's say the club do want to go out and buy a player. Let's say that line that came out about those 4 midfielders is not true. United sort of do want to go and back their manager in Erik ten Hag. Frankie de Jong doesn't get over the line. What can you see them doing? Can you see them still going out and spending 60, 70 million on a player like a Ruben Neves or a 50 million on your Tielemans? Or do you think they'll sort of think outside the box and say, or give Ralph Frankie a call? Who was that midfielder you were asking about for 5 million? Like, how do you see Man United sort of pursuing this sort of midfield situation if Frankie de Jong becomes unattainable?
It'll be up to Ten Hag. Does Ten Hag... So, I mean, if it's a matter of this deal can't get done now, but they have reason to believe they can get de Jong in January, it's going to test Ten Hag's resolve. Do you wait for your first choice or do you move for second choice and third choice? The Tielemans Neves debate is interesting. I see those as 2 very different types of players. I think Ruben Neves is a like for de Jong, but I don't think Tielemans is. I think Tielemans is a bit more combative, a bit more aggressive, someone who can offer you a bit of more of a goal threat in the final third, but I don't see him as someone who can get the ball back to front. I think he's very much he's an upgrade on McTominay. I don't see him as someone who can get the ball in the back 4. So I don't see those like for like. I think it's Neves or de Jong, and if you want Tielemans on top of that, then you go for it.
These are just names, and look, I like both those players, and I'd welcome both players to Old Trafford, but they're names that are just sort of out there because they play in the Premier League and they've always sort of been sort of linked on Twitter. Is there any rumours about those two players? Like, it's just about Frankie de Jong. Like, and here, Man United could be working on something behind the scenes. We didn't know about Malacia until sort of a couple of days before he signed. So these things can happen behind the scenes. But we're just throwing these names, and I think Arsenal throw the names out as well. I think they're both linked to Tielemans and Neves as well. And I think we just go into the same bracket because we're in the same position in regards to league table position. We're just saying Neves and Tielemans for the sake of it because they're players that we like and they're players that we know. Do you think the club is actually in for these players in the background?
I mean, look, we only know what we know, right? It's up to the United scouting department to find those gems in European football or elsewhere, if they can. But it's really difficult for Ten Hag. I look at that side, and when you're signing a player, because every signing is a risk, and I just think he needs as many assured signings as he can get. So I just think if you want the closest thing to guaranteed success, you go to the Premier League. I guess let me ask you, if it's not those two players, then what other options do you see around Europe that probably fit the cost bracket that United are looking for, but it can also fulfill the job that United need?
Looking around Europe, I'm not too sure. That the one name we mentioned on here before, and again, he's not the answer, and probably in terms of the exact position or attributes we do need in our midfield, maybe not the answer, but a player I do like is Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard, he's probably going to cost double what Frankie de Jong would cost, even though he's half the player. But I think that's what would happen if Man United come to town for a player like that. I think he would be charged through the roof. I think the name that everyone has gone quiet about, and will be very interesting if Ronaldo leaves and Man United hit the panic button in regards to getting a name over the line. The name, it's gone quiet, and I assume rightly so because of the price tag put on him. And here I am, not his biggest fan, but I know you don't mind the guy, but Declan Rice. That name has gone quiet, and I'm just thinking, I don't think any football team will say no to him to welcome them into their midfield. But just your thoughts on him, because his name has gone quiet. Everyone just assumed he's going to go to Chelsea, but now they've got new owners. They've got their own issues. They're potentially going to spend all their money on bringing Cristiano Ronaldo in, sort of thing. Does a player like Declan Rice stay at West Ham? And if not, who are the potential takers? Because City have filled that spot in midfield. You don't think he's going to go to Liverpool. Liverpool look like they're going to be saving their pennies for Jude Bellingham in a year's time. I'm just thinking, through a lack of options, is Declan Rice potentially going to find himself at Man United?
I don't think Ten Hag will like him. I don't think he doesn't. You look at
Good.
him, like he's not technically bad, but he's not brilliant either. I've seen comparisons.
Look, he's a player I've never been a huge fan of him.
I like Declan Rice. I think he definitely walks into United's midfield, but not for £150 million. He doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Man, Jude Bellingham, United need to be all over that in 12 months if they can. He's
Could you see United going back in and dealing with Dortmund in the way that we have in the past? Like, do you think Dortmund would sort of get that deal done, or do you think they would look at a Jurgen Klopp and a Liverpool and say, hey, because Dortmund and Liverpool, they're in bed together. Those clubs, they sicken me in terms of the way they behave with each other. And I can see that deal just happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, they both sing that god-awful song. Don't know. I mean, United have done some good deals with Dortmund over the last few years. So I think United will definitely be in there. And I have no doubt that I'm sure that there's a desire within United to get Jude Bellingham to the club at some point. They went heavy for him when he was leaving Birmingham. So I think they'll be in for it again. But I mean,
I think a lot of teams did. I think Arsenal, United, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, I think all the clubs did. And he, I think, took a leaf out of the Jadon Sancho book, said, look, I've got all these options in England. Let's go guarantee football at a top club, sort of thing. And fair play to him. He's sort of reaped the rewards of that sort of very brave decision.
Absolutely. But look, they got Sir Alex to show him around. And I just think you look at the Liverpool side, if you're Jude Bellingham, you're not guaranteed to start every game anyway. I mean, he's still young enough. I just think United's probably more of an assured thing for him. But anyway, let's bring it back to now. I mean, I'd love to take Jude Bellingham now if we could. But that's another thing, Tom. I don't see the plethora of quality midfielders around Europe to really go get.
Yeah, that's simple. That is why the Man United sort of pay their scouts and their scouting department, recruitment, and obviously at the end of the day, the manager, the big bucks. They have to go and find these players. We can sort of have opinions, but they're the ones who have to find them and actually work with them. But Matt, good to see you in the chat, mate. Good to see you. Obviously in a couple of days as well for a couple of beers down in Melbourne. But is there anything else press conference wise you found fancy, or sort of anything spring to mind in regards to what Erik Ten Hag said, or any other Man United news you want to discuss before we wrap up?
Where's this Ronaldo situation going? I don't know if he stays or goes. I'm looking around Europe, and I know it's a bit boring to talk about, but I don't see where he goes. All the reports coming out last night were Tuchel's not interested. So if he's not going to Chelsea, Bayern have closed the door on him. He's not going back to Madrid. He's not going back to Juventus. Where does he go? He might end up at United because no one else can afford him.
That is why I wouldn't say I'm confident. I'm far from confident. I would say I'm slightly confident in him staying at United, and surely through those lack of options. Now, I think a huge thing, I think we all play these sort of games in our mind of sort of this transfer merry-go-round. We're sort of waiting for this one domino to fall, and then that everything else will sort of kick into place. I think a huge thing now, I'm with everyone, rule out Bayern Munich. It's the last thing Bayern Munich will do. I know they've ruled themselves out of the race. It's the last thing you would expect them to do. However, if Robert Lewandowski is to move, I don't know why he's not linked with Chelsea, but he was obviously looks to go to Barcelona. Now, if they suddenly get that deal done, if they find their coins or find a little bit of cash on the side and get that deal done, they've just signed Rafinha potentially for 70 million. I do not understand what is happening to Barcelona. But let's say Robert Lewandowski goes to Barcelona. I think Bayern Munich would do it. Now, I know Bayern Munich have said they won't, and it's the last thing they sort of do, but I just think Ronaldo could potentially force through that. His agents would be able to sell the Ronaldo project to Bayern Munich, and what club would say, no, signing Ronaldo is not going to make Bayern Munich lose the league. They're still going to win the league regardless. Ronaldo is going to become top goal scorer and win a trophy in another league. So I could potentially see that happening. Now, ultimately, if you're a betting man, that's not going to happen. So you're back looking at Man United and Chelsea. Now, whatever Ronaldo's desire is to play Champions League and leave Man United, and he's happy to go to Chelsea, whatever that desire is from Ronaldo, I'm now solely looking at the club, Larry, and just saying the club won't, shouldn't, and better not sell him to Chelsea for a huge amount of reasons. One, protect Ronaldo's legacy for us fans. One, don't strengthen a rival. Don't sort of decrease our chances of success by getting rid of our best player and top goal scorer. But that coincides with strengthening that direct rival who have such a need for a goal scorer and a striker. So I look at, yes, there is frustration around Ronaldo's potential behaviour or desire around this, but my biggest issue is the club. If they sell to Chelsea, they're the ones at fault more so than Ronaldo.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I can't see United agreeing to sell him to Chelsea. The only way you could see it happening is if we get one of their plethora of midfielders back the other way. And I've seen people say, get Kante in for Ronaldo. I don't want any of that deal. How old is Kante? 31, 32 years of age. We're going to be, I guarantee in 12 months, people are going to be saying his legs are gone because it's the laziest thing to say. And
Now, I think Ronaldo will be a fool. Now, how can anyone question Ronaldo's professionalism? He's pretty much the most professional player to have ever lived. But a lot of people are saying, well, if he doesn't get his move, he's going to throw his toys out of the pram and he won't be professional. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case. But let's say you want to go down that line of thinking where if Ronaldo stays and he's not happy, you're not going to get a good performance out of Ronaldo. What do you do then in regards to maybe potentially getting an N'Golo Kante instead?
He improves United's midfield, but how long does he improve United's midfield for? That's my question.
How long does Ronaldo's attack improve us for?
Yeah, I know, but Ronaldo's scoring 24 goals at 37 years of age. Kante's position requires him to run all over the pitch. Ronaldo's never relied on energy. He's relied on precision and skill. That's the difference. Kante, if his legs genuinely do go, then you're going to have to replace him very quickly. And his whole game is around his engine. So if his legs do go, which is much more likely to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, we're back to square one. Get a young midfielder in, someone 25 to 28. United
actually, Josh with a shout here. He should get the vaccine and then his arms will be gone because he's not on Chelsea's tour from what I've read, that he's one of the players who, I think him and one or two other players from Chelsea, I think Loftus-Cheek potentially, didn't get vaccinated, so they're not on wherever they're touring. So do you think that almost rules him out of a potential move to Man United if they're saying something like that? Rightly or wrongly, but they've got to look at it. Sorry?
Maybe that's why Ronaldo's not on tour.
There was a big debate about that in recent months in regards to that, but I don't know what the rules are in sort of certain European countries. I'm not sure, but that was obviously a thing a couple of months ago. But he has
Australia if you're not vaccinated?
I don't know. Depends if you play tennis and able to sign a form, or I don't know the latest in regards to that status. I've tried to forget about COVID, unfortunately, but Well, Emad, we might as well have a COVID discussion now. Everyone's on it in regards to vaccines. Yeah, the boys, which player didn't get the vaccine? With N'Golo Kante at the moment, but who knows? That is obviously. I don't know how that's come out in terms of why they just hadn't say, oh, they're injured at home. That's obviously discussing someone's sort of private medical information. But in regards to that, Larry, any other Man United things before we sort of do wrap up?
Can I have a dig at people saying United should have signed Basuma? So if you can think back to when United versus Brighton, the game we actually won, do you know who made the error before Ronaldo scored his goal?
Are you trying to butter me up for some reason?
Scott McTominay pressed Basuma. Basuma lost the ball in his own half. Ronaldo got the ball. Ronaldo scored.
But Basuma is very dangerous in his own half in terms of getting the ball. He does lose the ball quite often, picking the ball up off the back four. Now, he does look good when facing forward, and we watch highlights of him spraying passes or going into a tackle. But he's one of those players where a lot of people don't accept that he actually is very dangerous to his own team. He does lose the ball quite often in that defensive third, which is a definite sort of weakness of our game. McTominay can't go and do it. Fred can't go and do it. Our best player doing that was Nemanja Matic, who's no longer there. So a lot of people, and look, rightly so, Basuma is obviously a decent player. I was never completely sold on him in regards to what our midfielder needed. I don't think he was that man.
Yeah, that's. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I don't think he's, like you say, I don't think he was the number 6 that United were looking for. Be really interesting. It'll be really interesting to see what happens from here because, like we said, Ten Hag's let it be known now. United need midfield reinforcements. So if that doesn't happen,
look, who knows what's going to happen? Look, this time tomorrow there'll be a different discussion. We'll be talking about football and we'll be talking about what positions Rashford best, or is Martial, is he the better striker? Is Sancho a left winger or a right winger? Hopefully, those are the discussions we're going to be having this time tomorrow, and hopefully a little bit more about transfer sort of window updates. But look, I know we didn't disagree at the start of the episode, Larry, but in regards to I wouldn't say behaviour, but the line of questioning from the journalists, in my opinion, I just found it embarrassing. Like, yes, obviously touch on Ronaldo, maybe follow up a question or two, but it was every question. Every question was, have you spoken to Ronaldo? No, I haven't spoken. Okay, Erik, thanks for that answer. How about this question? Have you spoken to Ronaldo? Like, it was the same thing over and over for 10 minutes. And I felt bad for Erik Ten Hag.
Yeah. Look, it's part of the job. I mean, it comes with the territory, right? But look, let's talk about tomorrow's game. I think that's more exciting than focusing on, who we could sign or what happens with Ronaldo. Give me a prediction for tomorrow. Do you have a score prediction, or do you predict a certain player or a certain event to happen in the game?
Well, if you watched the preview last night, I think my prediction was 3-1. I don't know, I could be wrong. 2-0. I actually predicted quite a comfortable win. I'm not sure why. I just have a feeling United are probably a little bit further along the fitness scale, and so it might be a little bit sharper than Liverpool in regards to we returned a little bit earlier to training, and obviously arrived a day earlier in Bangkok than Liverpool. So I think United will be a little bit fresher, and ultimately at this stage in pre-season, I think that ultimately it doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter what the quality is like. If the team is fit up, they're going to win 9 times out of 10. So I'm confident in regards to Man United getting a result. Now I say that, who knows what's going to happen. In regards to an individual player, look, obviously Jimmy Garner, you want to see him get a run for 45 minutes and see what he can do. If he can get on the ball and show a little bit of quality in midfield, he's the main one. Well, probably the main one is, where does Donny van de Beek line up when he gets his 45 minutes? Is he in an attacking role? Is he sort of in that sort of deep line role? Is he in box-to-box? I think that'll give us an idea of his potential. Is he going to be battling out with Bruno Fernandes, or is he going to be battling out with a partner in Fred or McTominay, etc.? So I think Donny van de Beek, that's an interesting one for me, because he's almost, like we say, almost like a new signing.
Yeah. It's interesting. This is gonna bore people. I'm gonna say Martial has a good game. I don't know if he scores or not. I could see it. I'm gonna say Martial has a good game.
Well, this discussion we've been having about McFred for years. McFred Burger and all this. Ian here, Savage scoring a banger against Liverpool, heard it here first. Do you think it's just worth it from a marketing point of view if Erik Ten Hag just lines up Fred and Savage next to each other?
Fred and why?
Fred Savage? People in the comments, please help Larry for our older listeners. But Google Fred Savage.
Educate me.
Go on to Google. One for our older listeners. But I think that's a marketing dream for Man United to play that. But obviously, who knows? It might be a sort of more consistent selection.
American actor. American
You don't remember
actor
Fred
from where?
Savage?
I've never seen this bloke in my life.
Don't remember Fred Savage, Wonder Years and everything.
What film is he from? Give me one famous film he's from.
No, the TV show. So Wonder Years was. I didn't watch it, but his name was the only thing you saw on TV.
No idea.
Yeah, I never watched the show, but he's always on the telly. That's true. Larry said that one. Before our time. But I would like to see Charlie Savage. He's a player who's, again, I look at the attributes, what's needed in pre-season to impress a manager, and all the reports that come through the youth system is that he's the fittest player there. So he's potentially one of those. Now, I'm not going to say he's a shout to be starting against Brighton in a month's time, but he is one player where could stand out as, oh geez, I didn't think he had it in him to perform like this against sort of a team like Liverpool. So I think it may be a bit of a belter would be Charlie Savage potentially to look out on this tour.
I don't know.
I was correct here, the Wonder Years. I knew it was the Wonder Years. Yeah.
Harry Maguire. Well, you know, it will be interesting. Do United play a high line tomorrow? And if they do, how does that counter against what Liverpool are going to do? I think we're going to get an early look in to see how does Maguire fit in. And that will be interesting to watch. I think obviously the eye's always on the midfield, the attacking players. But I think what will be interesting is what's the style of play that Ten Hag wants to play. You assume it's a high line. And if that's the case, we're going to see Harry Maguire, after the season he had, he's going to want a solid performance, pre-season or not. So interesting to see. Did you see Harry Maguire's interview on MUTV prior to the interview starting?
I just saw two or three sort of snippets of it. I was sort of tuning in and out. The only bit I heard was he's talking about the welcome to Thailand. I didn't hear any sort of football discussion.
He acknowledges last season, wasn't his best.
Good on him. I saw that too.
He acknowledges that the sun goes down before the night. It'll be interesting. I'm keen to see how Maguire goes tomorrow because I just wonder if he has a bad game, does the pressure start already? Last season's fresh in everyone's minds. So.
No doubt it will. I think every player, unless probably the only person who's probably accused of bad pre-season will be Malacia and anyone under the age of 22. Everyone else, if you have a bad pass, the knives will be out. Unfortunately, that is the way Man United fans do react online. But I don't look at anything in regards to performance in pre-season. It's simply, I know it's boring. People don't want to hear it. It's about minutes in the legs. It's all it's about, in my opinion. Now, yes, we do want to see good football, or we do want to see something visual from Erik Ten Hag in regards to how we sort of do line up. But ultimately, it's about minutes, not about performance, not about the result. It is just one of those things. Emad here saying, Tom, don't lie. You watched it. I watched it. We all watched it. Prime time after school. I think it was on before the show that I watched. Whatever show I was watching, I always got the last 2 or 3 minutes of him, of Fred Savage. But on that sort of notion, I would like to see Man United line up with Fred. McTominay bench and Savage lining up to Fred.
I don't think it'll happen. I think McTominay and Fred are going to start tomorrow just to send everyone in a meltdown.
That would be fun. Well, I won't be watching live because that is a Tuesday night 11 p.m. kickoff, and I have a flight first thing on Wednesday morning down to Melbourne. Now, Larry will be joining me a day or two later down in Melbourne, so maybe, Larry, you can do a sort of post-match review with someone on the podcast, and I can watch from my hotel down in Melbourne while I wait all the other Reds to come down. But
I'm joining you on the same day. I'll be 12 hours behind you.
Are you flying Wednesday, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were flying Thursday. Okay. We'll do a post-match review from Melbourne. We'll go down the pub or go down maybe the MCG or something, and we'll do a post-match. I'll have to watch the match when I get down there. But anyone else in the live chat, Mike, good to see you. We need to give Ten Hag time, but he also needs to be ruthless, and there is a balance of that. In regards to there does need to be patience, but at the end of the day, we are Man United. We do need results, and we are a very demanding fan base, and rightly so. But I think sometimes it does go over the top. But as I said, okay, Larry, I'll be seeing you in the flesh in 48 hours' time then, which will be good. I'm just thinking, have I missed anything in regards to Man United before we sort of hang up the call?
Well, unless Frankie de Jong got signed in the last 5 minutes, I think we're in the clear.
Yeah, I think that is a pretty safe bet that there will be in the clear. But make sure you do hit the subscribe and notification button. So if there is a sign-in, we will go live immediately. And remember to make sure you are subscribed because, as I said, probably our next podcast potentially does come from on the ground in Melbourne where Manchester United will be. So we'll be bringing you plenty of content from there with plenty of special guests. So make sure you do have that notification bell hit. Please do leave a like on the video if you're pleased with Erik Ten Hag's first press conference or how he dealt with it, please do.
For you. Twitter is in meltdown over Ten Hag's comments around Maguire being the captain. And Gary Neville's tweeted, so the same United fans fuming with me for applauding the decision to keep Maguire as captain seem to be, without knowing, criticising the new manager for his decision. Maybe support Maguire and stop bullying him on here. The new manager obviously likes him.
But I stand behind Gary Neville, and there's no hiding from how bad Harry Maguire was this last season. No doubt. I think the criticism and the abuse, obviously the abuse, but even the criticism was well over the top at some times. I think that the use of still images to sort of paint a picture of a defensive shape is just embarrassing. I think anyone who does use a still image to sort of paint a picture, I think that shows you their sort of views on football. But I think he's one of those players, and we're going to see firsthand, Larry, when we're down there, all those people criticising and abusing him last season, they're going to be there at the hotel or outside training grounds asking for photos, asking for autographs. When you see these players in person, realise they're actual people, you think, oh, hang on, okay, he's the Man United captain. I'll have a bit of respect for him. Now, he does need to sort of repay that respect and sort of give us a little bit more on the field. Was obviously afforded a lot of people sort of a bad season or two. It's their time to sort of re-show that and repay that faith. But I do back Maguire now. Do I back him to lead us to a Premier League title or a Champions League? Potentially not. But when he's on the field, he needs to get our 100% support.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I hope he does well. But I think tomorrow will be interesting because if he's at fault for any goals, I think, the knives are going to be out, unfortunately.
And to an extent, rightly so. I think to play at Man United, you do need to sort of always have competition. And if you make a mistake, well, it's someone's the next player in line, their turn to take their chance. And we do have a few defenders sort of waiting for that. Obviously, I saw Tuanzebe's there taking on load. It'll be interesting to see Erik Ten Hag, how he sees him as a player. But as I said, those are debates for another day, and we'll be back very soon to discuss.
We are on 1,199 subscribers. So if one person can subscribe, we finished this video on 1.2 thousand subscribers. So if that one person wants to be an absolute legend,
that would be great. Well, we'll keep it going for another minute or two. Just one thing I did see you put on your Twitter or Instagram, I forget the other day. Obviously, I was very sad the other day where Juan Mata was, it was probably a couple of weeks ago, probably best part of a month ago, Juan Mata departed the club and departed that number 8 jersey. Bruno Fernandes, happy to take the number 8 shirt. You're pleased with that by the looks of it.
Oh, yeah, ecstatic with it. I think Bruno's going to have a big season. I saw the criticism last season. I don't understand it. Yeah, I know he can be frustrating at times, but that same ad-lib style is the reason why he's been so successful. Just last season, it didn't come off because of the players around him. And of course, he needs to take some responsibility for that. But Bruno Fernandes is world-class. And if he's not running to the ground, I think he's going to be absolutely brilliant this season. And I think with Eriksen coming in, that should hopefully allow him to be rested so he can continue to maintain that same level of impact.
Definitely. Adam here is saying, anyone know what hotel they stayed in? Send us a message, Adam. We do have a bit of information in regards to that, but we don't want to sort of make it all public and sort of have a circus and everyone running down to the players' hotel in regards that was seen the scenes in Thailand. Obviously, thankfully, the scenes aren't, which is great support. All those players the fans going out to meet the players, but you don't want to sort of have everyone descending on a players' hotel, especially when they've just got off a long flight. You do have to show a little bit of restraint and respect and let them sort of have their relaxing time off, because it is a strenuous time for a player in terms of the media commitments, the flights, the pre-season training, which is the hardest bit on your body. And I'm just thinking you do need to afford them. We are very excited to see them in the flesh, even though I was sort of throwing them all under the bus and criticise them heavily throughout the season. They are people at the end of the day, so they do need their sort of boundaries respected. But how are we going on that subscribers count, Larry?
We are on 1,202. So 3 people have subscribed. Legends, cheers for joining the pub. Tom and I will be in Melbourne in 48 hours' time. So you'll want to follow us closely. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. And Tom, I'm looking forward to getting down there. I'm going to need you to find us some dinner. State of Origin's on Wednesday night as well, by the way. So we'll have to find somewhere to watch that.
You have to twist my arm to come out to watch that. I'm very happy to, but you have to twist my arm. Maybe tempt me with something. Maybe you can pay for dinner. My mum's here saying, hope you both enjoy Melbourne. Definitely will, Mum. I'll be able to see you tomorrow before we head off. But, yeah, you have to twist my arm for State of Origin. Is that a decider? The winner takes it all? Or is it?
Yeah. It's the decider.
Yeah, no, I don't follow it too close enough. But until then, obviously, we'll be chatting in a couple of days then. And, yeah, Josh's What State of Origin, completely my thoughts there. But, yes, in a couple of days, we'll be down in Melbourne. Make sure you are subscribed. Thank you to those legends who just subscribed to get us over that little milestone. And until then, Larry, chat to you soon.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, lads. Bye.